Now, this is a question I get asked a lot. Should I start my own private jet charter company, or should I buy a jet and put it on a charter certificate? It's going to make me money. It's going to pay for all my flights. That's what I've been told. Is this the case? So we're going to answer that question. I'm going to go into detail. My name is Fabrizio. I'm an airline transport pilot, your aviation advisor. I'm also the author of this great book here, The Quantum Economy. And there's a special offer regarding my book. If you stay to the end, you're going to get a special gift from me. You can click on the link below to get a copy of the book, but stay here to the end because I'm going to be talking about a special offer regarding the book, basically. Now, do charter companies make money? Well, first of all, let's look at what really happens. Now, let's go over to the airline industry and let's see the difference between what an airliner aeroplane does and a private jet does. Because people think, well, they're airplanes, they go into the air, they transport people, which is true. But the real goal of the airliner is different to the real goal of the private jet. Now, the airliner is basically someone sets up an airline, okay? Their goal is to transport 180 passengers on a plane from A to B safely with their bags. And more the airplane spends in the air, more money the airline make. So that's how that model works. But in order for the airline to break even, each airplane needs to fly at least 4,000 hours a year. And that's a lot of flying. So, and most airlines, I mean, there's probably not even 10 airlines in the history of aviation, that's going back to 1903, that's over 100 years ago, have actually made money. So there are very few airlines in the world that actually do make money. And I'm not going to go into that in this video, but that's how the airliner aeroplane works. Now, the private jet is a whole different matter. The private jet, why someone buys a private jet is because they're not really buying a jet, they're buying time. They're buying a tool which they put into their business, and this tool allows them to save stacks of time, and it gives them flexibility to be able to spring into action at short notice. It allows them to send an aeroplane out to pick people up, to come to them. There's all sorts of things that you can do with the private jet, which makes it a business tool. Now, that business tool doesn't make you money when it's in the air, even if it's just sitting on the ground in the hangar, and you have an ability to wake up in the morning and say, you know what, I'm going to go and see that client in Denver today. I'm just going to ring him up, say, look, I'll be with you in a couple of hours. Jump in your jet and off you go. That's something that people do. So a lot of people now, a lot of entrepreneurs, particularly in the United States, after the COVID thing, are learning to fly, and they're buying their own airplane and they're flying themselves from A to B to C to D. So it's even more powerful. It's like having a car in your driveway. You don't even have to hire a pilot. You do the flying yourself. So then what happens? What happens when someone decides to get a fleet of aeroplanes, of private jets, and spring them out on the charter market? Now, the private jet usually flies from A to B and then sits on the ground for a day or 5 or 6 hours or a couple of days and then flies back. You are charging the customer to fly there and back. But the airplane effectively is maybe only flying 2 hours in a day, or maybe even an hour and a half in a day. It's not, and you add that up, and it's not flying every day. I mean, you may charter your airplane out for 30 hours a month or 40 hours a month. It's nowhere near the 4,000 hours that the airline guys are doing. So how on earth are you going to make money? Well, how most charter companies start is you've got someone like me who's an aviation expert, meets a few people. One guy comes to me and says, I've got my own private jet. I've got 2 jets. I said, okay, fine. Well, let's do this then. We'll set up a charter company and I'll charter your planes out when you're not using it. Now, I just heard a horror story the other day. This guy was told, buy some jets and we'll charter them out. And one jet he bought was a Challenger 604. He bought it for $7 million off this guy. Discovered a while after that the guy had bought the airplane for 6.25 a few weeks before and then flipped it over to him for 7 million and made a whopping $750,000 commission on that. And obviously the guy wasn't happy when he heard that, and that obviously has destroyed that relationship. And he said, if he'd made $100,000 and he'd told me and he'd been transparent about it, he doesn't understand. I'm an uprising entrepreneur. And I'm probably going to buy, between me and my buddies, we're probably going to buy 15 airplanes over the next 10 years. He could have made a lot of money. No, he tried to be clever. The other thing this guy did, he told him that the airplane was going to charter a lot and that money was going to pay for all his flights. Well, the airplane took 9 months to do its first charter. So if you're thinking of buying an airplane and then putting it out for charter, and someone has told you that that airplane is going to make so much money, it's going to cover all your costs, they're telling you a massive lie. because, the private jet works very different to the airlines. And, people are going on business trips. It's not about the flight. It's about the meeting they do on the other end and the people that they meet with. So this airplane is not going to do all those hours to make you money. I mean, you'll be lucky if maybe you cover the pilot salaries out of the revenue you're going to make. But the other problem is the airplane's going to fly more, and more the airplane flies, more chances of the airplane breaking, because airplanes do break down. Anybody that tells you buy this airplane, it never breaks down, is telling you another lie. Every airplane breaks down. There's no airplane. Now, there are some airplanes that break down more than others. There are some airplanes that when they do break down take longer to fix. That, yes. And you have to take that into account when you're buying an airplane. Find out the history in that. But then there's also some airplanes that are very good airplanes that usually don't break, that suddenly break often because they were flown badly, they were maintained badly, and you're buying an airplane with that kind of history, and that's why it's important to do your due diligence and have a team that do the due diligence on the airplane that you're buying. So that's very important. So basically, should you set up your own charter company? If you're an aviation guy, you've got a few contacts, you've got a couple of rich buddies that got some jets, you can club those airplanes together and put them out on the charter market. Now, are you going to make a lot of money? You'll probably make 10% on each flight. But it's very, very intense business to do, because you've got people calling you all the hours of the day and the night. You've got airplanes down route, airplanes going tech, pilots going sick. Then you have to get another airplane in. It's not an easy business to do. And you got to have a lot of passion for it. And don't expect you're going to make tons and tons of money. Now, a lot of people quote NetJets, they quote FlexJet, but what they don't understand is NetJets and FlexJet don't actually make money by chartering their planes. That's not where they make their money. They make their money because they knock on Textron Aviation's door and they say, "Hi, Textron Aviation, we'd like to buy 10 Cessna Citation M2s. We'd like to buy 20 Citation Latitudes," and whatever. So, they're approaching the private jet manufacturer and ordering multiple aircraft. When usually, Gulfstreams of the world, the Dassaults, the Cessnas, when someone knocks on their door to buy a plane, they're buying one plane. It's a private jet. I've got a lot of money. I need an airplane for my business. I'm going to buy one airplane, not 20. But when, Warren Buffett and NetJets knocks on the door and says to Gulfstream, "We'd like 20 Gulfstream G700s, the price comes down. So now if I'm buying an airplane it was usually $60 million and I'm buying it for $55 million, and then I section it off and I sell 1/8 of the airplane, I'm going to end up selling this airplane for $60 million, and I bought it for $55. I make $5 million. That's how they make their money. A lot of the charter companies, what they do is they manage these airplanes. And how do they manage to survive? They've got these 5-6 owners that have given them the airplanes to manage. But at some point, they will want to change the airplane. So they'll sell the airplane. And this guy, if he's smart, a charter company guy will say, "I can sell the airplane for you, but pay me 2% to do that. And then I can find another airplane for you." And he will make money on the airplane that's being sold and the airplane that's being bought. And that's how they top up and they make their money. And of course, having a business like this where your foundation is managing aircraft for owners allows you to be in contact with these owners constantly. If you do a good job, they'll trust you. And then when they need another airplane, they're going to come to you. And that's how some people have managed to make money, by doing that. But again, it's very intense. There's a lot of work to be done. And, if you're a small outfit and that, you're getting phone calls in the middle of the night on Christmas Day, all that kind of thing. So you've got to be prepared, because, unless you build up a good fleet with a good relationship with people and hoping to sell 2 or 3 airplanes a year, as well as managing 4 or 5 airplanes that you have, to get to that point is not easy. But that's certainly something that can be done, and something where you can make money if you've got that relationship. But, bear in mind that the internet is killing the brokerage business, not only in the business of brokering, selling aircraft, but also in real estate, yachts, you name it, because people today can go online and they can type in, "I want to buy a Lear 55, and a number of Lear 55s come up for sale. And most people don't want an expert like me to sift through all the psychobabble that you get when you look at an aircraft spec sheet. Or even when you speak to a pilot. How do you know if a pilot's good? "Oh, he's got 10,000 hours. He must be good." Wait a minute, because that's not how I judge pilots. There's a lot of other things that go into selecting a good pilot. And it's the same with an airplane. You really do need an expert. But, most people that have made some money will just go online, ring up the broker that's advertising the airplane, and then say, "Oh, this is $1 million. The other ones were 1.2. I'll buy this one because it's cheaper." And they go ahead and they purchase the aircraft. And they make a mistake because they're talking to the broker. who represents the owner of the plane and not them. And his job is to sell the airplane for as much money as he can. So he's flogged you the airplane. You probably haven't done a pre-buy inspection or haven't done a proper pre-buy inspection. You then bring your lawyer that's been used to doing the real estate deals for you. You bring him in to do the transaction, and he misses a few things because he's never done a transaction on an airplane before. And it just sets you up for another horror story, basically. I know people that have bought aircraft in the past and discovered 3 months later that they didn't own it. So I know people that have bought aircraft that suddenly 2 months down the line break down and they're 3 months on the ground because that particular airplane, getting the spare parts of that airplane is difficult. They were badly advised. I know people that have bought airplanes for too much money, like the guy that spent 7 million when he could have spent 6.25. Why did that happen? Because he didn't know what he was doing. He's a business guy, and you've got to understand that aviation is very particular, and you should have an aviation advisor guiding you through the process. Otherwise, all these kind of things are going to happen. So just to go back to the original question, should I start my own private jet company? It all really depends, but don't expect you're going to be making a ton of money, because you're not. That's the reality. This is a very, very high capital intensive kind of business. So you need to have money behind you, and you need to be realistic. And of course, you've got to be realistic with your customers. Don't tell the guy with the private jet that you're going to charter his plane out for 100 hours a month when that's not true. Or tell him that, by chartering the plane out, he's going to make all the money he needs to cover the cost of his airplane, he's going to put money in his pocket, because that's a big fat lie. And anybody that tells you something different, even shows you a spreadsheet, that is a big lie, because it just can't be done. As I said before, NetJets make money, FlexJet make money, because they go out and they buy multiple aircraft and they negotiate with the manufacturer, because they're buying 10 airplanes and not one. You can even negotiate when you're buying one airplane, if you're lucky. Some manufacturers will, some won't. But if you're buying multiple aircraft, now you can bring the price down. And that's how those fractional ownership companies make their money. So to the answer to the question, should I start my own private jet company? I wouldn't. And I've been offered the opportunity a number of times. I wouldn't with that kind of traditional model. There are some models, however, out there which I think will work, but I'm not going to disclose them here on YouTube. If you want to find out how you could potentially make some money with so-called private jets, there are a few ways where you can. It will require some capital, though. But that's just the way it is. So let's come in for the offer now on my book, The Quantum Economy. Now, if you buy yourself a copy of the book from Amazon, so it becomes a verified purchase, and you write a review of the book, and you post me an email, emails down below, you can send me an email telling me that you bought the book, this is the review, and that's a verified purchase, I will give you a free consultation with me. One-to-one, we'll talk about your specific needs, and I'll come up with a plan, all for free. I usually charge for this, but I've got this offer on now for the month of January. I was going to keep it to the 15th of January, but I'm feeling a bit charitable right now, and I think I'll just run this to the end of January. So get yourself a copy of The Quantum Economy. You're going to learn a lot from this book. It's a business book. It's not just about aviation. I talk about, a number of things in here. You'll find, emerging trends, stories of people that have bought private jets and how they use the private jet to build their business. We'll talk about, ownership, pilot training, all that, emerging markets, some bit, for example, Vietnam, or what's happening in Latin America, how going into these emerging economies, you're going to need a private jet. There's all this kind of information in here in the quantum economy. And quantum economy means it accelerates you. It makes you move quicker. It gives you that flexibility and that speed. And that's what you're really buying when you're buying a private jet. So I hope I've answered your question. Let's get the conversation going below. If you've got any suggestions and recommendations to do another video, any questions you'd like me to answer on a video, post that below as well. We're always looking for new ideas. And I hope you enjoyed this one. And that's all from me on this episode. But check out this other one I did recently about the rise of sales with the smaller jets. I'm sure you'll enjoy that one, because I think that trend is going to continue in 2024 even more, as more entrepreneurs go out there, learn to fly, and want to buy their own airplane. There's more and more of those people. I see them calling me every week now, and it's interesting to see how many new people are learning to fly and going to use the airplane as their hobby, but also as a business tool. And that's all from Fabrizio here on Business TV, and I'll see you on the next one.